coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is good there, engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning. I live by the river.
Hello everyone and welcome to the By the Minute Arsenal podcast, the 11th I think of the season now, and also 11 league games into the season as well, the most recent of which was Arsenal Spurs on Sunday, and to discuss that I am joined by Matt V. Hello Matt.
Evening. I think I'd rather talk about Planet Earth, really.
Planet Earth the place, or Planet Earth the TV programme?
Most certainly the TV show.
Well, we haven't. That's not really within our remit, I'm afraid. but I take your point. I am Matt H, of course, for those who are interested. Now we'll get straight into it because we've just got the one game to review and we've got the one game briefly to look ahead at. But of course we've got an international break anyway. Okay, so the one game was the Big E. It was the North London derby, and I think it's fair to say Arsenal fans might have gone in with a little bit of confidence. I am generally pessimistic about Spurs games, optimistic about other things, but pessimistic about Spurs games for some reason. Just the way round I am. But those who listened to our last pod will note that Matt was quite optimistic. Although I don't know if a little bit of that was just to wind up Chris, our Spurs fan that we had on for that one. But certainly after the Wednesday game, where Spurs played Leverkusen and were dreadful. I mean, really quite poor. Even I was starting to feel slightly optimistic that this might be a relatively comfortable win or a comfortable performance, but it didn't work out like that. Now, I'm going to stop now for a while because me and Matt exchanged a couple of messages yesterday and I know that he's not happy about things as regards this game. So I'm going to sit back for a moment and I've got some thoughts, but I'll come to those later. So, Matt, the floor is yours, as it were. Go for it. What do you want to say about this game?
I mean, I don't know if my experience was slightly worsened by watching it with a couple of Tottenham fans.
Okay.
That may well have made it less enjoyable. But I just thought overall, considering the run we've been on, it was just really flat. Against Chelsea, we made a really quick start, but against Tottenham, we were absolutely nowhere for the first 30 or so minutes. I don't know if that was their system that caught us out, but we didn't really press them. I thought we were overrun in midfield. I don't think that was Xhaka or Coquelin's fault in particular. I thought both of them had decent games, but it just seemed we were permanently outnumbered. Dembele ran through our midfield at will, really. I thought Iwobi and Walcott, I don't know if it's fatigue, but I don't think they tracked back anywhere near as much as they have been doing. I think that left our fullbacks exposed. But as poor as we were to start, Tottenham, you wouldn't say Tottenham really created anything. And then sort of 15 minutes before half-time, we built up some momentum. Walcott hit the post, and then we got our goal. And going into half-time 1-0 up, you thought that would give them the confidence boost to push on going into the second half. I don't know what was said at half-time, really. Tottenham came out by far the better team, got their penalty. I mean, I'd happily moan about it, but I don't think we can have too many complaints, really.
No, no complaints is exactly the note I've got next to penalty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't think there's much to complain about there.
Which is gutting.
Yes, absolutely.
Kane rather typically then put it away. But even for the rest of the match, I don't think at any point we really pushed and looked like we were going to win it. I don't think you can blame Wenger for that. He made positive substitutions pretty early on. Ramsey came on. I thought Oxlade-Chamberlain, I thought his head dropped way too easily. He had a few decisions go against him, and he had a couple of bad crosses, and that was it, really. His head looked like he dropped. We didn't really give Giroud the service he needed. And then in the end, it looked like we were almost going to lose it with Eriksen's free kick hitting the post, and then that little episode where Czech or stood still managed to slip.
Yes.
Nearly gave everyone a heart attack. So I think, I don't know if it is just because it was Tottenham and maybe the expectation going in was that they're not in good form. This is a chance before the international break to put down a bit of a marker. But I just thought overall our performance wasn't anywhere near as good as it has been recently.
No, Well, no, that's a good place for me to jump in. No, it wasn't. I mean, I think if you looked at the performances of over the last few games, if you think Spurs hadn't won, I was doing this by the minute, so I had all the stats at my fingertips, and I've forgotten them slightly now. But I think Spurs hadn't won in 6. We hadn't lost in, I think it was 15. And both of those those runs, if you like, have continued. But you wouldn't have thought that watching it. I've mentioned the game on Wednesday. I watched more of a Spurs Champions League game than I would normally watch, actually, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe how hopeless they were, and I'm not just saying that with the rose-tinted specs on. They were saying it themselves, they were pretty awful, and that I can't believe the team saw that. And all right, yes, they've changed the formation a little bit. They've put 3 at the back, but I can't believe the team could see that performance and not think, well, we should get after this lot. Okay, they're good, but we're at home. We're good. We've got good players. We're on a good run. Let's go for it. And yeah, I agree completely. I mean, I have a problem with early kickoffs anyway. I really don't think it helps. At 12 o'clock in particular, for whatever reason, is a bit ridiculous, I think. And I think that can make the crowd seem flat, and maybe that does make a difference for the players. But ultimately, they're professionals. It shouldn't make a massive difference. I mean, I can't really disagree with anything you said. I don't think there was anything there that I would think was wrong at all. I thought a problem, something I noticed, I mentioned it in my commentary, was we seem to be coming down our left quite a lot. So when that shot from Walcott smashed off the angle, that to me was almost his first involvement. I don't know if technically it was his first involvement, but it seemed to be the first thing he'd done of any sort of great detail, or great impact, I should say. And I don't know why we kept coming down that side when we had Walcott and Bellerin on the other side, who were you would hope a good outlet, a good attacking opportunity, as it were, which didn't really seem to be taken up. Everything seemed to be coming down that side. Passes were going haywire. There was a couple of close shaves at our end, as it were, but we had plenty of. We should have had opportunities ourselves. There was plenty of the ball in midfield, but there was no. It wasn't as even if there wasn't a glass killer pass. It's just there was a bit of knocking the ball around, and then they just lose it and pick it up again because Spurs were quite deep for various parts of the game and couldn't really build again. It was frustrating. I don't know. I mean, you go back to the team news was interesting. So obviously, Monreal came back in. Which I suppose wasn't a massive surprise, but it's interesting he comes back for this game rather than one of the other ones. I mean, do you know anything about that? Was that because of an injury and he was just back and ready to go? I think that was my understanding of it. So he's very much first choice instead of Gibbs, which I suppose is logical.
Yeah, I think that is the case. And after the Ludogorets game, I'm pretty sure there was news that Gibbs had a knock. I don't think it was particularly serious, but
right.
Maybe that coupled with Monreal coming back sort of made the decision. The team news, on paper, I don't think you have any complaints with that. The team should have been good enough.
Oh yes, absolutely.
But it seems to be a few individual performances that were a bit poor. I thought Mustafi was a bit erratic at times.
Yeah, definitely. Xhaka, though, I mean, you mentioned Xhaka was obviously in, and whilst I agree, I don't think any of them were surprises. You could have made an argument for Ramsey to start. I suppose it might have been a tricky argument to make, but you could have gone with that. You could have gone with El Nini almost to start, whatever. But yeah, I don't have any problem with the team as it was because it looks absolutely fine. I mean, the big team news really was on the other side. It was Kane starting, whereas it'd been suggested throughout the week that was highly unlikely, that he was going to be on the bench or at most, and he might only be able to do 20 minutes or something. Well, that turned out he came off in the 73rd minute, according to my stats here. So, yeah, I mean, not that he did a huge amount apart from score the goal, but he was obviously he's an impact, not an impact player, he's a presence, if you like, that you always have to be aware of. And yeah, Mustafi didn't have his best game and looked a little bit shaky at times.
Yeah. I was looking at the Tottenham team when it first came out. I was looking and just trying to work out how they lined up. I've never just saw about 6 defenders and then 2 more defensive midfielders.
yeah, and I can understand that might have had an impact on Arsenal's attacking play. But if you're going to be winning the league or challenging for it, then you have to see these things and adapt appropriately. Whether it's the manager, whether it's the player. I mean, you make a good point about the substitutions. But they were earlier than normal, all 3 done by the 70th minute. But there wasn't really any impact from any of them. As you've mentioned, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Ramsey was game, but had a couple of long shots, and Giroud just couldn't get on the end of anything.
No, it didn't have any impact really. Sanchez went out wide and Giroud went up front, which is surprising because looking at our bench, it was by far the strongest and players which have been in decent form. I mentioned Oxlade-Chamberlain sort of dropping his head after a few bad crosses, but he did a great cross for Sanchez against Sunderland and had a decent game there. So I don't think there was any need for him to be so low on confidence.
No, there aren't any players around the first team at the moment, I think, who we sort of think, oh dear, they're going to play, or I'd be worried if they were playing. I think everyone has had moments this season. Put it another way. No one's had moments this season where you thought, oh, I hope they miss a few games, so I don't trust them in that position. Mm-hmm. I think all of our starters and all of our, if you like, first reserves, for want of a better word, you don't have any feelings about, any bad feelings about them. You don't think they're a problem. I mean, it's. I'm trying. What else I was going to note? Well, an own goal, of course, in a derby is always good fun. So going into half time, that was, because it was a cracking header. Planted into the corner. I don't know if your the Spurs fans you were with thought anything particular about that.
It shut them up we'll I do remember a very definite rise in my mood at about that time.
Well, that is understandable as well. I mean, we'll never know, but I wonder if we'd just been able to carry on for a little longer in the second half. Then I wonder if that would have been we might have been able to build on that. But of course, the penalty was, I don't have the exact time in front of me, but it was pretty quick, wasn't it, into the second half? So, and after that, to be honest, at that point, I thought, well, this is probably going to end level. Because neither team were particularly impressing me, to be honest. No. Although Spurs, of course, had a slightly different. They were going to be happy with the draw, whereas we shouldn't really be happy with the draw against anyone at home. So, okay. Anything else you'd like to bring up on that one?
No. I mean, we moan about the international break. Maybe it's not a bad thing at the moment to give Cazorla time to come back. I don't know if Iwobi's going to Nigeria, but he looked like he needed a bit of a rest. Ozil has thankfully been rested by Germany.
Yes, very, very handy that for.
Delightful.
Yes, it's very nice that he can have a couple of weeks off. It was interesting. I mean, I found the stats at the end and stuck them on the commentary. Spurs had more possession and had more completed passes, which I thought was interesting. But that doesn't necessarily. I haven't looked in detail to see. There were probably just short passes being knocked around the back 3, 4, 5, whatever, and around the midfield. So you can never tell too much into stats. But maybe it's just one of those things. Maybe it's a North London derby. It's two teams who are, we think, capable or should be capable of challenging, at the right end come the end of the season. Maybe this is just one of those games that happens. It's just a bit disappointing that it happened now when we thought, we had a bit of momentum going.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the result is a disaster at all.
No,
a 1-1 draw, and I think if it had been a 1-1 draw and we'd have given everything and really gone for it and hadn't been able to find a winner, then I think we accept that. I just think it was maybe the manner of the performance, which is a bit frustrating.
I think that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I think the result, we take the result and that's it. But there was something lacking, wasn't there? Something wasn't right, and it's just one of those things. Every team has it. Hopefully, it's just one of those things that we can build on and or move on from, should we say?
Yeah.
And look to get on with the next game. Now we have to wait for the next game, of course, because there's the lovely international break. But I just wanted to ask you, actually, we are now 11 games into the season, league games into the season, so we're near enough a third of the way through the league season. We've obviously progressed in the Champions League. We're already into the next round, and we've progressed in the League Cup. So if you were going to grade Arsenal at this point in the season, given they've now dropped to, I think, 4th in the league, but of course they're only 2 points behind Liverpool. What if it was a school kind of thing, what grade would you give the team at the moment?
I'd probably go for somewhere along a B+ or an A-. We've seen another chunk, if we're going to see it like that, of the season through unbeaten. Still very much in touch with the top of the table, and we've come through a couple of hard games to do that. So we're in a good position in all competitions, and more importantly, well, not more importantly, just as importantly, we've seen other teams around us at the top. They're capable of dropping points too. After we, drew 0-0 against Middlesbrough, people saw that as a missed opportunity. Then Man City showing, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. The Middlesbrough fan I know was very happy with the Man City result, and it's interesting that obviously Man City, it's not just that game. They've had a run recently where things haven't been very easy for them. Chelsea looked down and out, and now they're flying high, and Liverpool, of course, continue to play well, but they've had difficulties, not major difficulties, but they've had they haven't been winning all the games as easily as they won yesterday, for example. So, that's an interesting point that you can look around and see there are teams dropping points. Spurs being the obvious example, they might have not lost yet, but they've only sort of drawn half the games, or more than half the games now. So, it's nice to think that Arsenal are still in with a chance, whatever, because they kept the unbeaten run. They have looked very good apart from yesterday. I was going to go with a B+ myself. I think that's a reasonable grade for them. A lot is going to depend on the next few games, of course.
Yes.
Because November, we've got a couple of November out the way, and it's maybe we should be glad there's an international break in November to
That's true.
move things along. We've got 4 games left in November, although even slightly different importance between them. So we've got PSG on the 23rd, so that will probably be the decider in terms of who's going to win the group. Then we're at home to Bournemouth on the 27th, and then we're at home to Southampton, but that's in the League Cup on the 30th. So before any of those, though, of course, we have the Man United game. Now, if there's any team that you're not really sure what's going to happen this season in terms of one of the supposed big teams, then Man United must be that team, because you just don't know what you're going to get. And you don't know what you're going to get from the manager, let alone the team, because the manager seems to be getting ever more eccentric, shall we say. He could probably do with a break for a couple of weeks. It's a couple of weeks away. Any thoughts on that Man United game at this stage? It's an early kickoff again on the Saturday, on the 19th.
Well, I think we can be definitely sure Mourinho is going to be well up for it.
Yes.
If there's one game he's going to want to win, it'll be that. And I'm sure the same goes for Wenger. I think they've been in poor form, but decent result against a Swansea team which didn't offer a lot. Ibrahimovic out of the Arsenal game.
Yes, of course, because of his 5 yellows, he said. Yeah.
So, I'm not sure if that is good news for us, really. Depends who they play. Hopefully, they'll play Rooney. But if it's Rashford or Martial, that obviously poses a different problem. It's so hard to predict, because recent years has shown, however poor the Man U team looks on paper, or however poor form they're in, we're more than capable of going performing even worse. So you just hope it's not going to be another frustrating game that really we should be able to get a result from, because I think, well, much like the Tottenham one, maybe a draw afterwards isn't a bad result to look on, but I think it's a winnable game if we go at them.
Yeah, I'd have thought so. I mean, United's form this season has obviously been up and down, and they've taken a few knocks, to put it mildly. But it's United at home. It's never going to be an easy game. I don't really know what to think about it now. I guess we wait and see how everyone comes back for the international break. But yeah, I think their attacking options will be interesting, particularly if Mustafi is, slightly off the pace again, or Koscielny. Great as Koscielny is, he does occasionally have games, I think, where he looks a little out of sorts, as in so many players do. But occasionally he'll have one of those. So I don't think the team will be overawed or anything, as they may have done in the past when going to Old Trafford. I don't think Mourinho has a particular. He's not looking. What am I trying to say? He's not a scary proposition at the moment.
No,
I don't think. Basically, as he would have been a few years ago, it hasn't really worked for him. Even going back to the Madrid job, really. I mean, he managed to win a league there, but you should be. I could probably do that at Madrid. So, I think he's been looking for something to get his teeth into. And this is obviously it, but I'm not sure. It's not really started as he wanted it to start, shall we say? obviously, he's had success at Chelsea as well more recently, but he wants to, we know that he's almost begged for this job in the past. Now he's got it, and it doesn't really seem to be working out for him. But I don't think they're going to get rid of him anytime soon, because that's generally not the way they do things. But I'd be more than happy to help push him towards the exit door if we can on that Saturday.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you want to beat Tottenham because it's Tottenham, but if there's a very close second, it's whoever Mourinho's with.
Yeah, absolutely. If Mourinho ends up managing Tottenham at some point,
my goodness! Oh, you can imagine the feelings I would feel.
That would be quite a thing. Of course, then the problem of losing that game, which you wouldn't even want to think about, would be.
No, I'd
horrific.
probably be going into hiding if that happened.
I think that would be pretty appalling. All right then. Well, we won't witter on longer than necessary. So we're happy-ish with the way things are at this point in the season. We are a bit disappointed, not so much in the result, but in the performance from Sunday. But we get a bit of a break. Everyone has a break, and hopefully things can be a little better for us in the rest of November. Although we haven't really got that much to complain about, unbeaten in a long time, and still in the title hunt, and obviously the Champions League all looking very promising at the moment. So with that, we will be off next week, but we'll come back after the Man United game, but before the PSG one, so we can review Man United and look ahead to the PSG one. So for the moment then, Matt, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone enjoys England-Scotland suitably.
Yeah, my only concern about that is me having to get back from work. I go via Baker Street, so it's going to be full of drugs. But apart from that, well, it's a Friday night. It's normally a bit like that anyway.
Yeah.
But yes, yes, indeed. Enjoy the happy international break, everyone. Enjoy it, because it's your last one for a few months, I think.
Yes.
I think March, but I could be wrong. It could even be further than that, but we'll see. But anyway, thank you very much. Thank you, Matt. And we will speak to you in a couple of weeks. Take care. Bye-bye.